which was Sun at that point and not Oracle, right?
Don't mention Java.
Hey, I'm going back. For me personally, Kotlin, like, I don't know how they do it, but everything I want to express, they let me express it the way I want to. Like, the reason I believe in Kotlin multiplatform over Google Flutter is not because of the engineers. The engineers in both cases are excellent. There's like, if Kotlin multiplatform fails, JetBrains fails. And if Google Flutter fails, right, like, that sucks for Google, but they're going to go back to ads, or they're going to...
Does it mean that we might finally get to share the UI on a Kotlin JS target as well?
I think the biggest thing to be aware of is Wasm is expensive.
And do you think that web applications are a better investment compared to the mobile apps? Do you think that a developer needs to work in a company to gain a real development experience? My first guest in this podcast series is David Herman. He's currently working in an open source, he has a rich programming experience, and is the author of the popular Kobweb framework for building websites with Kotlin. David, really glad to have you here. Thank you for joining us. Why don't you tell our viewers a bit more about yourself?
Sure. I'm really excited to be here for the very first podcast. Thank you for having me. Yeah, if I think about it, I graduated college in 2001, which if you're too young to remember that is basically around the time that tech exploded for the first time. There was a big crash. And yet at the same time, we had like so much exciting changes in store for us. I had no idea. And I didn't really think too much about that. I always loved programming. I got a job in the game industry first. I worked at Sony for about 10 years. And then after that, I spent another 10 years at Google. I worked on Android Studio. That introduced me to Kotlin. It got me to fall in love with the JetBrains IDE and basically their whole suite of tools. But I didn't really think of myself as an open source programmer. But then around 4 years ago, I decided I was getting older and I wanted to do something interesting. Kobweb ended up being this thing that I stumbled upon and felt really passionate about, and then that's where we are today. And I think I could have easily worked at Google many more years, except for the fact that I had this realization that I'm getting older and that my brain was getting slower. And so it really sort of felt like, if I want to do it, I have to do it now.
That was very insightful. Thank you for sharing those information. So if you were to get back in time, what kind of a career path would you choose and why?
That's interesting. So actually, I'm pretty happy with my career path. I consider myself very lucky. I would say the broadest mistakes that I made were earlier. And the way that I would describe it now is if you ever find yourself getting just so bored, right? You're just bored. Like, bored tends to mean you're not growing. And I didn't pay attention to that signal, right? I was young. And so what I should have done when I was getting bored is I should have started looking for another job earlier, or I should have been looking for more challenges within the current company that I was in. The game industry was kind of tricky. I mean, the game industry was pretty brutal, right? There was just, everybody there. And I don't know if that's still true today. I'm assuming it is. But like, the game industry tends to pay less than the regular industry.
I think now it's a different story. Gaming industry is a huge industry with lots of people, and market share is great here as well.
Sure. Although it's still feast or famine. There's some people who make a lot of money. They take all the money out of the room. But fundamentally, people who go in the games industry are very passionate about it, right? The long story short is I started to get stuck, but I didn't recognize it. I didn't really recognize it. And I had ways that I did work around that feeling over time, and we could also talk more about that if it comes up organically. However, I think the broader point is I should have paid attention to that signal more. Maybe the quick thing that I'd want to say is if someone is trying to navigate their own path is like, always keep learning, right? Do whatever you can to keep learning. Do it at work if you can. I mean, I understand that's not always possible. So if you can't, then make sure you draw clear boundaries in your career so that you can go home and learn stuff on your own, right? But always keep growing, always keep learning is sort of the guiding North Star for me.
Great advice. Yeah, I agree. Permanent education is the key to success.
Sure. So you'll also feel less like, it's really easy to feel sort of resentful at your job at some point. Like, they're just extracting everything out of me. I'm giving them everything and they're not giving me anything in return or whatever. But if you're learning, then like you're getting something, right? Like, and that something could pay huge dividends in the future. So that's, I think, the way to to try to think about.
So yeah, money and knowledge in return for your time. So tell me, how did you switch your job from a game developer to a Kotlin? So why did you choose a Kotlin?
Sure.
And do you think that Kotlin multiplatform is going to become number one technology for cross multi-platform development?
Gosh, I hope so. Yes, it's my favorite language. And I'm not just saying this as someone who's like, oh, it's the first language I stumbled upon, so of course I love it. Like, I was somebody who was kind of interested with languages, and so I would sort of, every time a new language would come out, I'd sort of peek at it and look at it, and try to understand, like, what problem it solved. And that's always a good thing, is, like, not every language can solve every problem equally. What problem is it trying to solve? But, of course, things like C++ and Kotlin are trying to be generally useful as well. But yeah, for me, I guess it was Java and C++ in college, and then C++ and C# at work. And C# and Java are definitely similar. And I actually fell in love with C#. I was very surprised. I was a little bit resistant at first, not for the idea of learning a new language, but I think at that point it was like, oh, this is the evil Microsoft language that went after Java, which was like the good guys, which was Sun at that point and not Oracle, right?
Don't mention Java.
Hey, I'm going back. I was running Java in like 1999 or something. It was a different beast back then.
I mean, comparing Kotlin to Java, I was also back in 2017. I've worked with Android development, specifically with Java programming language, and I mean, it was terrible. Comparing to Kotlin now, Kotlin is just magnificent. Actually,
well, I mean, I'm assuming people who are watching this are probably Kotlin fans, but you're I think you're wading into a minefield. I will say I worked with somebody at Google who was very pro Java, and for the right reasons, right? Like he would say that it really, like, the language designers are very careful. They like the Kotlin designers, like, their goals. I haven't heard this, but I'm sort of reading between the lines. Their goal is, what are common patterns? Let's make it succinct to use. And so sometimes there's like multiple ways, maybe that, if you're like 3 new Kotlin programmers, you might fight over style. Whereas in theory, Java was like, you got one way to do things. And this person wrote like the most gorgeous Java code I've ever seen. Like, I would go in, I would give a code review, and like, I thought I did a good job. And then he would do another round, and it was just like, you're just watching this expert, craft this stuff. And
I mean, people gonna definitely argue. There is always argue between Kotlin developers and Java. There are still some Java developers who are still developing Android applications, and I always mess up with them and say, switch to Kotlin and stuff, and they're always mad.
I'll just say this: for me personally, Kotlin, like, I don't know how they do it, but everything I want to express, they let me express it the way I want to. Like, and I'm not saying that this is because Kotlin's good or not. It just really aligns with the way that I think about code, I guess. And this is over time.
When we are talking about Kotlin, I mean, you probably started building your framework Kobweb because you love Kotlin,
yes.
Right? So
yes.
I have one question about the Kobweb, and that is, when is Kobweb gonna reach stable version? That's
3 years ago is what what I would have told you if you asked me at the beginning. I would love for it to hit 1.0. I'm very motivated for it for personal reasons, because I want to use my framework. Like, I want to start writing websites with it. I've got all these ideas in my head, but I can't because my priority is getting it to 1.0. We have a roadmap. You could find a link to it from our README, but fundamentally the things that are blocking it from getting to 1.0 is we just have to, like, at this point, finish up all of our CSS APIs. Like, CSS just has like hundreds, thousands of properties, and they all need to be bound. And
it's a lot of work.
So yeah, and then, like, especially you're like working more and more on these sort of esoteric properties that nobody's using, right? Like this, like we used to get when Kobweb was new, we'd get people jumping in the server all the time, like, hey, I want to use this property and it doesn't exist. I'm like, all right, I'll focus on that. But we haven't gotten comments like that, I think, at this point for like a year or two. So I think we've gotten like all of the main ones, but that doesn't count for 1.0. 1.0 isn't like, yeah, we did good enough.
So do you have some kind of time frame of when you're planning to release the 1.0?
Hopefully June in 2026. Let's hope we're at 1.0 by June 2026. How about that?
June 2026. Okay, so that's about a year.
A year from now.
Next year.
So let's see if I regret these words, but I'm going for it. I mean, fundamentally what I need to do is I need to finish the CSS APIs. I need to add a bunch, like this is scaring me a little bit, but I have to add a bunch of UI widgets. That scares me because it's like you want to come up with something that looks generally good for most use cases, and at the same time, it always takes longer than you think. They take so long to make a new widget. But when those are done, I think, and the thing is like those new widgets as they come online, I think like Kobweb, you could use it today. You could already be pretty confident about having a decently good experience.
Yeah, there are already some libraries here by the Kobweb users for UI components and stuff. So, I mean, they're obviously not that much as with, let's say, Android ecosystem, but still it's a development.
Yeah,
and,
still early days. Still early days.
Yeah, and about the future of a Kobweb framework. So, do you have some kind of a roadmap for the Kobweb? What's next?
Post 1.0?
Yeah.
Post 1.0, I've been so focused on
components?
1.0. I mean, when I file issues in the tracker, sometimes I'll mark things with a 1.1 milestone, which is sort of indicates to me that I think it's a really nice feature request, but that I don't want to block the release over it. So probably that like the roadmap would be getting those done. But I also don't. I kind of see myself like 1.0 sort of means to me that like I tell people I'm confident about the shape of the completion of it, and also the fact that like they don't have to worry about backwards compatibility issues anymore. Like with me, like, oh, this API sucks. Sorry, I'm going to try to migrate you guys. But at the same time, I really hope that 1.0 becomes maintenance mode in a way where I'm there, and instead of this being something I work on 5 days a week, I'm working on it 1 or 2 days a week, and then I spend those other 3 days working on other stuff. So to me, that's what 1.0 post 1.0 means. But it's not really a roadmap. That's just more of a dream is a great word for it. Yeah, it's just the wishes at this point.
I have a question also about developers who are actually using Kobweb. Do you think that developers could potentially earn money by selling their Kobweb templates? Just like we have, for example, a Framer, which has templates. It's a platform for selling website templates and building websites with a no-code builder.
I'll tell you the way that I think about Kobweb, which might be a little bit backwards for the way that a lot of people might think about a product, especially if they're sort of focusing on the financial aspect of it, is I don't really think about how to earn money with Kobweb. I just sort of think about making something that's really useful to as many people as possible. I do think about making sure that the community grows, right? Because I want people to be excited about using Kobweb. I want people to be proud of what they create with it, and then I want them to share it. Right? And if that happens, then I kind of expect that the community will rise up around it and find ways to, draw so much value that they're getting paid for it. So
yeah,
I think short term, yes, you can say yes, right? We can make money multiple ways with Kobweb.
Yeah,
I mean, I'm hoping there are people who are already earning money with Kobweb today just by making a useful website that provides value to the community. But yeah.
No, I mean, yeah, that's probably going to be somewhere in the future when Kobweb reaches that 1.0 version. I'm hoping next year, like you said.
I'm hoping 1.0 will make people feel more confident about that sort of stuff too, or at least asking for it. I think that's
yeah. So recently I have also watched some videos from the Kotlin conference.
Okay.
And I have seen somewhere that JetBrains is actually working on making Kotlin Wasm interoperable with HTML elements.
Okay.
So does it mean that we might finally get to share the UI on a Kotlin JS target as well?
I've always kind of thought that would be possible. I still think, like, as a user, right, you have to understand the requirements, the constraints. Right. I think the biggest thing to be aware of is Wasm is expensive, right? It's an expensive thing. It's a huge chunk that you have to download. It's this opaque binary, and they're going to work really hard on bringing that size down. I think about it as like, imagine you had like JavaScript for the scaffolding of your site for the surrounding, but then you had a canvas inside, right? You had like actually canvas that you just render stuff to, and like a game would be a great opportunity for that. You could easily imagine having like a high-performant OpenGL 3D game rendering in a canvas, and you've got like canvas Kobweb elements on the outside. And if that's possible, then there's no reason that Wasm shouldn't be possible. I guess what you might also be saying the other way around, where you have like a Wasm container with a JavaScript components inside.
Yeah, exactly.
That one,
I mean the interoperability is both ways, probably.
I would imagine that that should be possible. I think what like Kobweb likes to own the whole page, right? Like it wants to be associated. Like Kobweb, if people don't know, right? Kobweb is a web framework that its goal is to simplify navigation, right? It's like for the people who want to make a website in Kotlin because they love the language, but they don't want to like worry about all the other details that you usually have to worry about when you're sort of building up a website. So like Kobweb definitely has a strong concept of we own the URL in a way. Like when the URL changes, we absorb that and we update our contents appropriately. But like in terms of like having a Kobweb site injected into the middle of a WASM container, I'm not really sure. Like maybe, you know, if we get the community big enough, users will be like, hey, I want to do this, this, and this, and they'll give me concrete examples and we're like, that's really cool. Let's make it happen. So that's kind of, again, how I think about it. Interoperability is something I'm excited about, but I would expect it more to go the other way around, where like WASM would be inside your Kobweb app.
I have also one interesting question when we were talking about Kotlin Wasm and the Kotlin JS. So even though the UI layer in Compose multiplatform is shared across Android, iOS, desktop, and Kotlin Wasm, but not Kotlin JS, would it be an overkill for the library authors to go an extra mile and implement a separate UI specifically for a Kotlin JS, just to ensure their libraries remain usable across all targets, including Kotlin JS?
Not only would I say that they, you know, might need to do that, I highly encourage them to do that. I really have come to the conclusion that there's exceptions to this, of course, but if you are writing a website, you should really, really lean into the web browser ecosystem. I think it's really tempting to tell yourself that you could just write your project once and run it on so many different devices. Users don't care, right? Like you can be like, as a developer, this makes me so happy. I save, you know, 30 hours or 50 hours or 100 hours or months, right? And the user's like, I don't care. Give me the good product, right? And so, you know, if you're using the web browser, you expect web browser functionality, right? It's some people, developers, like to right-click on your website and open it up in the developer inspector panel. But even beyond that, people install extensions on their browser, and if you put everything in your WASM chunk, and someone right-clicks on your UI thinking they can get some interaction with it, like maybe they like want to right-click on a word, and you know, my wife has got like a dictionary extension that she likes to use, right? But they're not going to be able to use that with your WASM app, and I think that's a really bad experience for users. So
yeah, I think I agree totally with that. And I mean, it kind of looks like Kotlin JS target is left out. You know, there are other different platforms which we are already talking about with Compose multiplatform and Kotlin multiplatform. But yeah, I think that we should encourage library authors to actually go that extra mile to build their UI components for Kotlin JS target as well. And that way we can target all those different kind of environments with our libraries and satisfy basically each and every environment, which would be awesome at the end.
Right. Yeah, I mean, an uncomfortable truth is if you're doing web dev, right, at most companies, they're going to look for a JavaScript, TypeScript developer, and it's fantastic. However, what I'm really hoping, and the reason, I think earlier you brought up Kotlin multiplatform, and I really wanted to succeed, and a big reason for that is I think Kobweb doesn't really show its strength until you're like all in on Kotlin and you love it. And so even though you can't share the UI layer, you can definitely share business logic. And so if you're like a company, like let's say you do a startup and you're like all in on Kotlin, right? You've got your Android app and you're even doing iOS in it, and you've got just a tons of backend. Like everyone knows Kotlin, right? Everyone's singing the same language. It's super aligned and super efficient. And then here you come along and you're like, oh, well, we have to make a website. If we can use something that's Kotlin JS, all of a sudden we can target the web, but we can reuse like 70% of our code that we might need to, which is a really great feeling for those companies or those projects.
I mean, I really love Kobweb. I have already built a couple of projects or websites. Even
thank you for being an early adopter.
Even a Kotlin multi-platform project, a blog project, which was accessible on Android, iOS, I think, and web. So, I mean, it was a great experience. The one thing that I think it slowed me down a little bit was the UI. So I spent
Sure.
a lot of time working on the UI. I've wanted to make all custom components and stuff. So I spent a lot of time doing the front end, right?
Sure.
And that was kind of the takeaway from that experience.
Sure.
But other than that, I was really enjoying building websites with Kotlin. It was a great experience. I'm already familiar with the Kotlin and Compose, and it was really exciting, to be honest.
Compose is a great API. Compose is great. And then I even, like, when I was first working on Kobweb, I would take TypeScript applications or JavaScript applications and convert them over just to, like, because I was learning I was trying to learn how the web worked and learning how to, like, what issues would our users have and things like that. And then I would just find that, like, the Kobweb and plus Compose, like Compose on the web, just, it really feels really good. And then also, I mean, I do agree that there's a lot, it's asking a lot of users, right? It's especially if they're, like, if you're somebody who, like, has a JavaScript, TypeScript, HTML, CSS background and you, like, hate JavaScript and you're, like, looking for an out, you're fine, right? And a lot of those people have found Kobweb and they've said nice things about it. But if you're new to web development and you're like, well, everyone's talking about Kobweb, and then you try it, and you don't have the mindset like this is a totally different thing. Like you're gonna have to learn CSS, right? Which a lot of people don't want to do. Now I've come to respect CSS a lot, which I was really surprised by because I didn't use it that much when I was most of my career. But, like, in general, CSS is very powerful, and there's a lot to like about it once you get your mind around the mental model for it.
And do you think that web applications are a better investment compared to the mobile apps, considering that mobile apps are subject to strict app policies, which could potentially result in your app being removed or your account permanently suspended?
I mean, that's a big question, and I don't think there's a right answer. I mean, I think you have to go to what your users want. Just sometimes, like, I don't think everything needs an app. That was like something in the early mobile days when there was the mobile revolution, where it was like people were so excited, like, oh, you have your restaurant that you've just opened on the corner, and it's just that, right? It's not like a chain or anything, and you should have an app. And now it's like, I don't even want to download an app for huge chains, right? Like, why did we go this way? But, like, other times,
you can make a web app which is fully responsive and access it on each and every platform. I mean, I'm talking about that from my personal experience, because I've also had an issue with my Apple developer account. For some reason, I was struggling to create a developer account, and I'm still struggling. But I gave up because obviously Apple support was not that helpful. My emails were not answered at all, and I just thought I should definitely switch and at least adapt my applications to support and for users to able to access them from a website. Because on website I basically host my apps and I'm independent greatly rather than leaving my apps on app stores, which can potentially anytime remove them for some weird reason or something.
I mean, that's true. And at the same time, I think there's going to be times where the web view on a phone won't give you, like, a totally native experience. As of the time of this recording, I think Apple is coming out with a new UI language. I think it's Liquid Glass or something like that.
I've heard about that. So
and I'm guessing, but if you do web, I don't know if you're going to get that, right? Like, you're going to have, like, you could probably do some amount of, You can replicate that. Sure. Honestly,
somehow.
it's an interesting question, and I don't really have a great answer for it. I think I do like the idea that web is very empowering, and I think people might even be underestimating how quickly you can get a website up in, like, from nothing to out on the web that you can share a link to your friends within, like, hours. It's incredible versus, you're trying to do I mean, just imagine trying to go through the Play Store requirements at this point, and I can't even imagine Apple.
It's a lot of work. There are a ton of different policies and the requirements, and every new version of the mobile system, whether that's iOS or Android, there are tons of limitations that you need to follow, and there are different sorts of rules.
Sure.
I think they're they're for a reason, obviously, but in a developer perspective, they definitely are hard.
Remember, the users don't care about our tiers. They just want a good experience. And so if
True.
getting a native app is the right thing and the right expectation and it gives you access, I mean, I'm not really, it's an interesting question that I can't answer right now. And I feel like I should. But it was like, what are the functionalities on an Android phone that you can access through a native APIs that you can't access through the web? Is there any? Can you access 100%? Is it 100% parity? Right? Does it feel the same when you like long press on buttons and stuff like that? Honestly, I don't know. My only focus right now is just empowering Kotlin on the web. And then I sort of figure post 1.0, I'll figure out maybe some of the other rest of those things, give some best practices, stuff like post 1.0. I want to have a lot more examples. I want to be able to share open source examples with people. I'd love to have a lot more, like maybe start to make some YouTube videos of my own, right? With tutorials and things like that. So anyway, but it's easy to say because I just have to say it, but it's much harder to do it. But then again, I have to get to 1.0 first, and then the rest will hopefully follow.
Yeah, I hope the Kobweb will reach that 1.0 eventually, and I mean, people are already using it.
You could use it today. You could use it today.
Yeah. I mean, I'm using already a Kobweb website in a production, which is 100%. Without any issues or such. So it's a great thing. Now, I want to ask something about young developers. So, do you think that a developer needs to work in a company to gain a real development experience? Or do you think that the person can gain a significant knowledge even when working on a personal project?
They're different skills, and I would try to push people to learn both of them. So when I was at Sony, I was sort of intimating before that I ended up kind of in a corner. They left me alone. I was doing a good job, right? And I wrote some of the worst code of my career, and then I ended up fixing that code like later because it didn't scale. And I was able to learn that way, but I just remembered always feeling like it took a long time to learn, and it was very painful. And then also, like, I didn't really push myself as much as I might have. Like, sometimes having other people around you can really help you push yourself to the next level. And so, like, a great example of this is as soon as I went to Google and I started doing C#, like I was working with, and he was very smart, I was working with another engineer who had only been using C# for 1 year, but he was like totally aware of all of the latest language features that I wasn't. Right, because what I had done is I had learned C#. I was like C# 1.0, maybe 2.0, and like I got everything I needed, and I didn't really extend my knowledge after that. I was just so busy focusing on what we were doing at work. But then you meet with someone else, and they're like, "You should be using this. What about this pattern?" And it was just eye opening how And I didn't know I was doing it. I did not notice. Yeah. So I mean. And also there's skills. I mean, I hate to say it, like there's a lot of really crappy work that has to get done in a company and you'll hate doing it, but it needs to get done, right? Like if you have a job where you need to give performance reviews to other people, nobody likes giving them, nobody likes receiving them, but like you need to do something, right? And so like there's all of this like grudgy, oily work that happens between the gears of a company, and they have to happen. And I don't think you have to enjoy it, but I think you have to appreciate that sometimes these things are necessary, and even maybe have the perspective of why they exist and what it's like to be on the other side of it, because it's really easy to be the victim to these things. And I don't want to excuse, some of these systems have run amok. I don't want to excuse that either. But I mean, being in a company is very useful.
It's definitely useful. And how hard it is to keep up to date with all news and latest technologies in Android or a mobile development world versus the web development. Is it harder for mobile developers to stay up to date with all new stuff which is coming and
they're
releasing
both very,
every day?
very complicated ecosystems with like very rich legacy issues that are sort of getting carried along. I mean, it's this weird thing where like I think staying up to date is both easier and harder than people make it, right? Like what I mean by that is you probably feel FOMO if you don't feel like you could talk about all the latest things, right? And so you get really focused on what the latest framework is or what the community is talking about. And like the community is like they'll go back and forth because it's not a single person, right? It's like it'll be like this group gets dominance and then they sort of lose their power, and then another group. And so, you get caught up in this and you're like making it more complicated for yourself than you need to. Like just solve the problems you need to solve is the most important thing.
Good point.
And a lot of the times, these new things that are coming out, it's because people have identified these problems that have not been solved in a structured way, and now people are coming up with new ways for it. But like just because if you've already if you're fine, like if everything's working and then somebody comes up with a new way to solve it but you're already happy, like don't stress too much about it. Don't close your mind off to it. But
I think Android developers some of them might disagree with that.
Go ahead. So, give me the counterpoint.
For example, before Jetpack Compose, people were developing Android apps with the traditional view system.
Yes.
So most of them, I think that they have already switched to Jetpack Compose. I'm not sure how many of the legacy code there is yet.
Sure.
With the traditional view system, and that was definitely a good choice. Switching to Compose.
Sure. But that also had official guidance from Google, right? Like I was working at Google at that time. Like I was working on in the Android thing when, like before Compose even came out, the team was working on something. I think they code named it Crane. And they didn't know what it looked like yet. Like they did not know what the final result was going to be. They were debating, but like the clear message internally in the company was the view system is too much baggage, and it's causing us harm, and we need to move on from it. And then Google happened to hire Jim Sprock, and he had an idea, and he's prototyped it, and quickly got a lot of buy-in. I wasn't on the Android team. I was on the Android Studio team at that point, so I don't know like the full story. But it was like really clear. I think there was like this really famous demo he did, which showed recycler view on one end, right? Like this like multi-page solution, and then the Jetpack Compose version, which was just a few readable lines. And I think like that was the killer demo that really got a lot of people excited. And so, but like that's an example where like everybody knew that there was pain that needed to be solved, and then there was an official solution to solve it. And there was a lot of, even inside Google, we spent a lot of resources making sure that users would learn about Compose, right? We have to worry about it until that happens.
Yeah. You also recently went on a Kotlin conference.
Yes.
So
that was great.
What was your overall experience? And you were a speaker, of course, but even so, have you interacted with the audience, and did they show an interest in building websites with Kotlin?
Sure. I love Kotlin Conf. I wanted to speak at Kotlin Conf probably for 5, 6, 7 years. By the way, there's an example where I was saying earlier, sorry to go back, but we were saying like, at a company, you might not get opportunities even though you want to do something. And I was not someone who spoke a lot. Right, I always wanted to. Like, I read books about how to talk, and I went to Toastmasters for a while, but I just never got the opportunity because there were already so many great DevRel people, or like the stuff I was working on wasn't the stuff that needed to sort of get talked about at a conference. And so, but yeah, like I never even thought about getting the opportunity, and then working on Kobweb, I finally got that opportunity. I love Kotlin Conf. I love JetBrains as a company. I think that they're super aligned with the developer. And as long as that keeps being the case, I'm going to be a fan. I love it. Whenever I meet people from the company, they're great, right? They really do care. And they are really focused on the developer experience as
yes. They're also sharing a lot of resources and tutorials and video materials about their technologies and how to use them. So they're really close to developers, and it's really helpful.
Let me say something that like I don't know if this might get me in trouble or not, but like it's an opinion I've repeated a handful of times, and it's my own personal one. Like you can think of Kotlin multiplatform and Flutter, right? They're essentially solving similar niches, right? And I say niche, it's a big niche, right? But which is like the cross-platform, write your code once and solve it in multiple areas. And like the reason I believe in Kotlin multiplatform over Google Flutter is not because of the engineers. The engineers in both cases are excellent. There's a lot of great tech that went into to Flutter. There's a lot of great video content out there. Like there's like this backlog. They have years of head start. But JetBrains is just more aligned with the developer, in my opinion, than Google is. And so for that reason, like if Kotlin multiplatform fails, JetBrains fails. And if Google Flutter fails, right, like that sucks for Google, but they're going to go back to ads, or they're going to go to their AI dominance or things like that. Now maybe there are people at Google who watch this who like are very upset, right? Like what I might be saying might be wrong. I want to be careful about that. There may be, but this is just maybe even my bias, or certainly my perspective. But I really do feel like JetBrains is fundamentally aligned with its developers, and that's something that really motivates me. And Kotlin Conf represents that, right? And in terms of, and you asked me if users are using Kobweb, or what was like, I mean, we had people come up after the talk and they asked some great questions there. But I'm not really sure. Like, I think the proof will be in the pudding, right? If users are using Kobweb, you'll see it. One of the things that I'd actually like to do, and I'll probably get it done in the next 2 or 3 months, I just have to prioritize it, but I want to make a showcase website built in Kobweb so you can look at the source code behind it, and then you could submit your projects, and we'll be like the place you go to look at like all these amazing projects that people have made. Right now you can go to our Discord server and people will share their projects there. And usually a lot of it is students. I'm always excited. It's so funny. Like I worked at Google and it's like world-class engineers, but like they don't use Kobweb because they're too busy, right? They're too busy feeding the machine, and it's hard work. And then you just meet all these amazing developers around the world working in open source, and students who just have a real passion for code, and they're really just trying to, find their own way in the world. And they'll be the ones who use it. So I don't know if that answers your question or not.
Yes. You have started your programming career quite early. I mean, when the AI wasn't here at all. So
sure.
How was it, comparing now and back then? So how faster can you develop a project? How faster you can accomplish things now versus then?
I think there's a lot of reasons you could accomplish a project faster now than before that have nothing to do with AI. I mean, the idea of like creating a website and getting it up and running and hosted and all that sort of stuff was just a lot harder because a lot of that really great tech didn't exist yet. I mean, when you're talking about when I'm starting, there was HTML. It wasn't CSS, right? CSS didn't exist. And as much as you want to make fun of CSS, just writing raw HTML is also a nightmare. At the moment, I do have concerns about some AI, and I use it daily. So I'm not like a hater if you use AI.
And what are your concerns exactly?
My biggest concerns, digging down to my root belief, is that you want to keep making yourself better. Right? As a human, every day you want to grow your skill set. You want to grow. We can't do everything, but you want to grow what's kind of important to you. And so getting better often means struggling, right? It means doing hard work. Like as I was saying, when I was working by myself at Sony, I struggled because my old code was so crappy, it hurt me, right? Like the people would ask for a new feature and I had to fix it. But like I had to really burn in a lot of scars to sort of learn not to do some things. And so
do you think that relying heavily on artificial intelligence has potentially dangerous consequences for developers on the long run?
It's up to each user. And I would say on average, I would expect, knowing human nature, that most people will fall into this trap, which is like, it feels good to feel smart, right? It feels good to feel like you've done something good, right? You have bosses taking credit for their reports work all the time, right? They like run around and they puff up their chest because their team did a great job. And maybe they were a part of coordinating that team. But like, I think the dangerous thing is like, you might ask AI a bunch of questions and then just paste stuff in and it works. And then you feel really good about that. Like it feels really good to see something that's working. But if you don't really understand what it's done, right? Like if you're getting in the habit of just like taking an answer from something else and just sort of pasting it in and not really thinking about it critically, then that's a problem. But if you do think about it critically, like if you paste the code and like, why did it do this? Or you ask it questions and you drill in, or if you're like, oh, it hallucinated and this isn't the best way, right? Like like to me, I feel a lot of pride when AI gives me an answer confidently, and I realize that there's a better answer out there, and I dig into it and I find a better one. And so, like, if you're not having those sorts of experiences with AI, then I would worry that you're shortchanging yourself.
It's not just about the code itself. I mean, people are often relying too much on AI
Sure.
to do various sorts of basic things like, thinking, critical thinking. So you basically delegate your work that should be done by you
Sure.
in normal world to the AI, and
Sure.
that the delegation can potentially be really dangerous. Do you experience burnout at some point?
Yes.
And what's
Yes.
your advice on
course.
overcoming it?
Now, what's
That's a
interesting
really
is I've worked
great
crazier
topic.
hours on Cobweb than I ever worked. I was always a hard worker, right? I told you I was in the game industry, and that was not easy. You have to listen to yourself, right? You have to start to feel like, usually it's like when you like have a task that's kind of easy and you can just do it, but you just sort of like stand there and you're like, oh, I don't want to do it. Like, that's probably a sign that you're a little bit burned out. I will say, working on Cobweb, despite the fact I've been working way more hours than I worked at, like, I may have worked more hours in the game industry than I work on Cobweb, but like Cobweb is way up there. But I don't get burned out as much because I'm so excited about,
Because it's your personal project
Sure.
that you have
Sure.
started on your own, and it's not something that someone have told you to work on, and you
That's a
must
huge help.
do that.
But also it's because, like, there's no filler, right? Like, as I said, if you're at a company, you have to go to a bunch of meetings, and meetings are important and they drain the soul, right? They're like, those things are both true. And so, like, just the fact that I've reduced a lot of friction is
How many
is helpful.
hours do you work per day now that you're an open source developer and working on your own project?
I mean, the amazing thing is I could work crazy hours one day and not that many the next. But like, usually when I wake up, like, I start a morning, by 9 I'm coding. Sometimes it'll just go till like 9 p.m. Yeah, I mean, it's at least a 9 to 5 job. I think about it all the time. Like, that's just the coding. I've got my phone on me, and anytime anybody asks a question about Cobweb, either on the Discord server or the Kotlin Slack, or in any of our other places, I want to be there, right? So in that sense,
But the regular work, when you're coding actually. So how many hours per day you're actually doing the coding and the tasks which are
Sure. Yeah. I mean,
related to your project? Is there 2 hours, 4 hours, or you're doing it the full 8 hours like on a regular work?
There's always a break, right? I eat lunch. I love lunch. You're not going to take lunch away from me at all, ever. So at least you're talking about like probably 3 to 4 in the morning, 3 to 4 and 5 in the afternoon. But like, I also step back, right? Like, I'm not, I think it's more like, I'm not forcing myself to do this. And maybe even one of the things that's really great about Cobweb is I get in the flow state and nobody interrupts it. I think that cannot be understated. I'm sure there's people watching this right now who just sort of felt this huge pang of jealousy. I certainly would have, because people are always pulling you out of flow, and it's like the most aggravating things. And when they don't understand it themselves, right? They don't understand why you're so grumpy. But yeah,
that's a huge benefit. Yeah,
it's a huge benefit. And so, I mean, but that being said, like, there's a lot of times where I'll work on something just for 30 minutes, and then I'll just take like a couple hours, and I'm just relaxing, right?
Would you now switch your current position where you have freedom to take a break whenever you can or whenever you want, with a job at some company which pay you, I don't know, some kind of a crazy amount of money per year?
Sure. So,
but you gotta work 9 to 5, and you don't have that kind of freedom.
Well, so first of all, Cobweb is going to get to 1.0 before I do anything. Like, there's no company before Cobweb gets done. I really value and respect my users, and I'm going to get it. I'm not going to abandon them at all. And I mean, even for my own personal, just for the person who I am, like, I don't start something without finishing it. The only thing that would get me into a company right now is not money. It would be a mission statement that I really believed in, and that I thought that the people in charge were doing a great job, and that I can support them. Like, maybe even it would be better for me to do it for them than to do it myself. That's it. So I don't know if that helps. It sounds like a cheesy answer. You'd be like, yeah, everyone's going to say that until someone drops like a $10 million salary offer on them. But no, I mean, I really think you have to have a deep, cold, hard look at what money enables you to do. And for me, I know the life I want to live and I'm living it right now. So I don't see why I would need more money to do what I'm already doing.
So you don't have any kind of regrets that that you have chose that kind of a life where you have a total freedom and
No, the opposite. I feel so lucky. Yeah,
that's glad to hear. I mean, obviously it depends also at what stage in your life you are actually currently in.
Sure.
But at some point I think that everyone is looking for that kind of a freedom that they can experience and do the things that they want. They don't have to answer to anybody,
Sure.
That's kind of the whole grail of being.
And let me temper that a little bit, like, because what I also want to do is I want to make sure that there are people who might be happy at their job, and they might be like, well, should I be free? Like, am I screwing myself over? Am I going to regret this? And there's really no one right path. I mean, there's just like, what are the goals, the priorities that are most important to you, and are you accomplishing them? There's also like a lot of complexities about being free, right? You have to be dealing with a lot of ambiguities, right? There's a lot of times you miss your coworkers, right? At Google, I love that I could just turn to my friend and be like, can you join me for we'll walk over to the whiteboard, right? Or you get lunch with people. People always talk about how spoiled Google engineers were, which is not entirely wrong, but they'd be like, oh my God, they get a free lunch. But you have to understand, like, that meant you went to lunch with your coworkers and you talked. I mean, you sometimes talked about random stuff, but you'd also talk about work, right? Like, and that was a wonderful thing. In fact, for me, the reason that I like AI is it lets me sort of fill in that loneliness that would be there that I would normally sort of dealt with by asking a coworker. I mean, I also love that I have the community. I mean, that's incredible. I've got people who I talk with daily, right?
Yeah, a huge Discord server. I know it's there are lots of people. I am not sure how many people there are actually currently in your Discord channel.
I don't pay attention.
You don't pay attention to that, but it's
if they're there and they need help, then please come and we'll help you. Yeah.
People are asking questions all the time, and I know that you're very kind with your answers.
Well, I'm grateful. These people are using my software, right? And it's not like by the time they're asking a question, I don't know if this is like a lot of people have already suffered before deciding to join the server and ask the question, and they might even ask the question thinking like no one's going to answer, right? And so I really sympathize with that situation, or even empathize with it. I've been on the other end. I mean, throughout the course of my work on Kobweb, I filed bugs against different projects that I've depended on, and some of them will respond to your bugs promptly, and other ones will like just ignore it. And it's very painful because you can give like these really beautiful bug reports where it's like all you have to do is like take this one line and apply it if you agree with it. And they don't do anything with it, and so I expect people to be burned by things like that. Yeah.
Did you had some kind of a critical issues in your Kobweb project architecture that you think that might have been done differently, and now it's too maybe late for it to be refactored?
I worried about that a lot at the beginning. I kept because at that point I was like so much about web that I still was like learning on the fly. Right? Like, I think people might be like, oh, this is the creator of Kobweb. He must be some web expert who spent his whole career. And it's like, no, I didn't do web. Like, I was allergic to web most of my career. As I said, my mission is...
That's paradox.
I mean, you can do things... I mean, maybe I'm not the best person for the job in theory, although I was the person who stepped up to it.
But I'm persistent.
Sure, persistence is important. Grit is maybe more important than almost any other characteristic, I think. But like I had the unique ability that I was passionate about Kotlin. I was not working, so I could do whatever I wanted. And I had a lot of experience with architecting code. But yeah, I was really worried at first. These days, I'm not so worried. I feel like every new thing that we've faced has sort of folded in neatly. like what were some of the things I was really worried about in the early days? I was really worried about CSS variables because I didn't know how that was going to work. And I was really worried about some UI issues, like the way that UIs was going to scale up. And those
there was also one thing that I wanted to ask. So
yeah, sure.
As far as I know, so
Yes.
correct me if I'm wrong, Kobweb basically generates one single page, and that's a single page. So there are not multiple
Right.
HTML pages. It's only one, right?
Right.
So is that going to be a problem maybe if someone is working on a huge code base? Or
Sure. So splitting up, there's definitely, there's definitely like a desire to split up a very large site into like maybe different domains, right? Or there's like a feature which I don't quite know how to do yet, and I think hopefully I'll be talking with the JetBrains team more about it as well. But like the idea is you kind of lazily load. Right. So like the way that something might work in Next.js, which is an excellent framework for JavaScript, TypeScript, is you declare like all of your pages. And then when you visit a page, it only downloads, it preloads like all of the pages it's connected to. And you could do that in JavaScript because everything's kind of like, every file is kind of an independent bundle. But when you build Kotlin code, you're just building this thing. So yes, I would like the concept of splitting something up. I'm not 100% sure how to do it. I do recall, we already have one user who got something kind of working for his case, which is pretty good. There's and I could see, I think there could be a way, I'm almost thinking that because it's Kobweb, I think the feature should probably be called spidering, where you create multiple Kobweb servers, which
a good
each
name.
serve a sub part of it. And I'm sure it's doable. So I think it's doable enough that I'm not too worried about it. But yeah, there's also,
you don't think it right now until you release that 1.0, and then it's it's not that critical.
And I could be
issue.
I could be putting my foot in my mouth here, but I don't think that supporting that is going to be if we had written the code this totally different way, then we would be able to support it, but we can't now. I don't think that's going to be the case.
You already have a couple of projects that you're working on, but do you have any plans for maybe another kind of library or a framework?
Framework? Oh gosh, no, I'm tapped out.
Enough frameworks.
What I would like to do is I'd like to use Kobweb. Right? I'd like to have a good year, 2, 3, where I'm just using Kobweb full steam ahead. I have my game dev background, so I would maybe love to use Kobweb for a game. That's in the back of my mind.
I haven't tried that.
You could. There's so many ideas there. The other thing is just making a website, right? That you visit and has some interesting service.
I've seen your website, your Kobweb website, where you also have a really comprehensive documentation about
the Kobweb
the
doc site
framework.
is written in Kobweb. Yeah.
Yeah, it's written in with Kobweb. And did you design that website on your own, or did you?
So the original website, when I started Kobweb, there was actually a product manager from I met him at Google. He had also left Google. We were both out of the company at that point. And we were I was doing the tech stuff and he was sort of doing the design elements. And so he started it. So the landing page was his design, which I believe was inspired by other websites. I think with the web,
everybody is taking inspirations from others.
The web was kind of designed for that. I don't know the reality of it now, but definitely one of the spirits of the web was that inspecting the source code for the page should have been a common thing to do. So, but then in terms
it's totally normal. It's totally normal. And my question is also,
but I've also got a lot of
hard.
help. I've got a lot of help from other people. I just want to make sure that this isn't a one man's job. I just got a lot of help.
Yeah, I get that.
I get that. Site. Yeah.
And how hard it would be to code the website without the actual UI design of the site that you're doing, because in my head it looks like if you're trying to build a website without the UI design, it looks like building a house without the blueprint, And not so many people are actually talking a lot about the UI design, which is really important because you're gonna waste a ton of time if you don't have a predefined and completed UI design before you actually start coding.
It's true, and I would say that the more experience you have, the more you're going to like do a better job right out the gate. But also, I've actually found HTML development in Kotlin a little forgiving, where like you can kind of screw up, but like everything, because like a UI is essentially like CSS plus a composable function inside of a class, like you could just delete that file and then you create it somewhere else, right? And so that's a really nice aspect of the fact that sort of
it's not a pain to replace the UI component. It's the pain to waste hours
sure.
to build something that doesn't look that good.
That's true. Oh, I see what you're saying.
Yeah,
sure.
Because with a UI design, you already place those elements in the places that they look good, and you arrange them in a way that they makes the whole website look beautiful.
Sure.
But without that, you would waste a ton of time rearranging them right there and there, and it's loss of time.
Yes, I see.
That's the whole point. I mean,
it is. I think whenever you're going to do your own UI, like it's really tricky. What I will say is, like, look at other websites, right? And what's also fascinating, well, not even inspiration. Like, it turns out that sometimes you think you don't have design skills. And I mean, I'm not a designer, but like you feel like that's hopeless. And it turns out like the difference between what you've done and what looks good is not as far away as you think, right? Like it's, for example, making sure your font is a really nice font, making sure you use like really nice readable font sizes, making sure you're a little bit consistent about like your visual language, right? In terms of, don't go crazy. Don't have like 30 different colors for different, like have a meaning like this is my main color, this is my accent color. You can kind of read some of these design. There's a lot of design blogs at this point.
It's
like material design elements and things like that. But yeah, you'd be surprised. Like you don't need to do that much. Like it's very easy when you're like not good at it to like, I need to throw more at it until it gets better, right? Like I need to keep going. But it turns out like you simplify it, right? All you need is just like a really big font and then like maybe like a nice, smooth, like solid shape with rounded corners. You just go to a website you like and then like look at what they're doing critically and then like reproduce that and see if you can do it with like the most minimum amount of elements as possible.
That's a good advice. Yeah, I agree with that.
You're good at it, so yeah, I'm sure maybe if you don't, you'll have a course on it soon if you don't already have one.
I mean, every beginning is hard. When I first designed my first app, I mean, it was really horrible. And even now, when I'm working on a new project and I'm starting from scratch, I go through lots of different iterations in my UI design to make it look perfect. And what I have learned throughout the years is that the more stuff you're trying to put in on the screen, the more complex you're trying it to make, it will not look that good. You should add only those elements in your UI or your application that are necessary.
Yeah.
I mean, that has proven to be a good solution for many of projects which I have worked on.
Yeah, what is the purpose of this particular page? What do you really want to convey? What do you want the user to be able to do? And really just sort of focus on that. I think is really good. And then if you do a bad UI, right? You're working on it, you make a bad UI at home, like that's only a failure if that's where you stop. Right? If this is like you did a bad UI, why is it bad? What can I do better? Like then it's not only it's okay, it's good that it happened. Like that's part of your developing a skill. It's part of your
failure is healthy as long as you don't give up.
Embrace failure, love failure. If you're not learning to love failure yet, like now this is my message to you. Like failure is your friend. Just be sure to
that's a good advice for the end of this podcast. And those are
time flew by.
Those were smart words. Oh yeah, it's already 1 hour and a half. I think somewhere there. We're close.
I'm guessing there are a lot of other questions still on the list. If we want to do this again in the future, you know where to find me. Yeah.
I had a few more questions, but the most important questions I have already asked you. We might probably repeat this after we reach that milestone with the Kobweb. and
Sure,
we make
I'll be
it
here when it's
stable.
1.0. Another reason for you to get to 1.0 even faster. Thank you so much.
Yeah. So I had a great time talking to you. I had also some great questions which I wanted to ask you, and I wanted to do that in a podcast in a way that we can also share that with other people. I'm also waiting to see what other people might think about this first podcast series that we have just recorded.
It's like I want to be better, right? So
we are transparent.
What would you like to what would you wish I would have answered more, or was there any answer that I gave that was bad? I don't mind if you write that stuff. I'd love to learn about what you guys think.
No, as we have spoken earlier, I mean, this is all a learning process, and of course, this is not going to be perfect at first try. I mean, this is the first time of me doing this source of content, but I'm definitely planning to keep moving and see what I can do to make this better in general. But I will not take any more of your time. Thank you again for joining here with me today.
Thank you for thinking of me.
I really appreciate that.
Yes.
Really, honestly.
I really enjoyed this. I had a lot of fun. I was really glad to be here today. Thank you.
Thank you as well. Okay, so let me just see. I have received some kind of an error. Refresh the page to try again. Okay, it's recording, I think. It's recording.
Yeah, it's recording me, yeah.
Okay. It was just some kind of an error. Okay, now it's fine.
That's some good ASMR drinking tea. How did that come through? Yeah. Yes, this is me. This is my voice. This is how I'm going to sound throughout most of the podcast. And so let me know if this is loud enough.
It's okay. I think it's really fine. I can hear you well on my end. Okay, let me just see. My mic is positioned here well. I mean, even if I talk right there, you can hear it well.
Right
Right there.
It seems.
Okay.
Do that again. I didn't notice a difference when you.
Right there.
Yeah, it's about the same. You're fine.
Okay. So I'll give it a shot.